People often get confused when they hear the terms shareholder maximization and stakeholder maximization. Shareholder maximization is about returning as much as possible to the equity owners of the business, while stakeholder maximization is about improving things for a broader group of related parties. If you want to learn more about stakeholder maximization, you can follow this card up here. But if you want to learn more about shareholder maximization, just stick around. Sometimes when I talk about setting corporate objectives, people get confused. They say things like, isn't profit maximization the same as shareholder maximization? Isn't shareholder maximization just a specialized version of stakeholder maximization? And so on. Most of these corporate objectives are related in some fashion. I think we can break the whole group of them down into either shareholder maximization or stakeholder maximization. Technically, there is a small difference between cost minimization, profit maximization, shareholder maximization, but the differences here are much smaller than the differences between shareholder maximization and stakeholder maximization. Shareholders are the people who own the equity in the business. They are the people who vote for a board of directors, who hires a CEO, who will hire all of the rest of the employees in the firm. Every step in that corporate hierarchy is in place to maximize the investment the equity owners have made in the business. That doesn't mean that the company can't do something nice for their community, but it does mean that the overarching theme in their decisions would be making more money for the shareholders. There are a handful of factors that really drive equity value for a company, and they include more than just profit. And that's the difference between profit maximization and shareholder maximization. Revenue growth is an important value driver, but in some cases, a young company may not have much revenue to grow. But if they can show growth in users, members, or some other non-financial metric like subscribers that is a logical predictor of future revenues, then that too is a way to increase shareholder value. Other key value driving items include cash flows and risk. Decreasing risk when possible can improve valuations. Increasing cash flows has the same effect. Some people, including a former version of me, claim that in order to maximize shareholder value, the firm has to be taking care of its employees and its customers, or else it will lose them, which will ultimately hurt the firm value. This idea goes back to the 1970s when Milton Friedman used to look at shareholder maximization as one singular objective for the business, which contained all of the other important objective functions. I still think there's a lot of truth to that view. If you aren't running the company correctly, firm valuation will definitely not be maximized. However, there are aspects of the business that can be considered to be at odds with that. Take pollution as an example. Is it in the firm's best interest not to be fined by the EPA? So in that regard, they should take care of the planet and not pollute. However, there's a lot of opportunity to reduce costs within the laws, but in ways that can hurt our communities, society at large, or even the whole world. Carbon exhaust is a great example of this. Venting carbon into the atmosphere below the levels required by the EPA is perfectly legal, and probably cheaper than trying to capture the carbon and disposing of it in some other fashion. So a profit maximizer should be happy to vent the carbon to dispose of it. But that's at odds with taking care of the community, society, and the planet. Companies are frequently forced to choose between doing what is most profitable and what might actually be a better choice, ethically speaking. As you can see, the shareholder view might be starting to get a little dated. There are a lot of new approaches to rethinking how we do business, and right here at Harvard Business School, there's a project called Rethinking Capitalism that is being led by George Serafim and Rebecca Henderson, who are attempting to reconcile some of these types of issues. Just down the river, Esther Duflo and Abhijit Banerjee, two Nobel Prize-winning economists, are trying to help solve poverty on a global scale. Meanwhile, ESG investing is taking off in practice, and in the research community, ESG investing is short for environmental, social, and governance-oriented investing, and it involves investing in companies who are not just profitable, but who do the right thing. It will be interesting to see what happens to Friedman's old view as we move forward, but I suspect the idea of shareholder maximization will still be a dominant goal for most businesses for decades to come.